allies in this war on terror. In April 2008, the U.S. government reported approximately 10 juveniles were being held at Bagram Theater internment facility as unlawful enemy combatants. Bagram has also been compared to Gitmo in the crimes committed there by U.S. authorities. The U.S. came under intense international criticism for its treatment of children when these numbers were released. As a result, the U.S. government recently released a report claiming that as of December 2009, only 5 children were held by the U.S. in U.S. military detention facilities in Iraq and Afghanistan. But the report did not say what happened to the other children. It is also unknown whether these numbers are true or not. But even if they are, the report leaves unanswered the question of whether these children have access to the protections guaranteed to them under international law. It also fails to address the rights of children transferred by the U.S. to Iraqi and Afghan authorities. And I can go on and on. This is actually a very long report. I'm going to have to shorten it for time considerations. This country has not dealt with its racism. When it does deal with its racism, blacks and whites will come together and take a look at who are the victims of this illegal so-called war on terror. That's when racism is dealt with. Just having a black man in office, or excuse me, a half-black man, to continue the agenda of George W. Bush, which many black people, African Americans, are also waking up that he really is just another black Bush and really is doing absolutely nothing for the African American community, except maybe give them jobs in the military-industrial complex or jobs as police officers or jobs as security officers. That way, people that are at the bottom can feel like they're in control. And they've done this with just about every race. They do it with the Afghans. They do it with the Iraqis. It's not about race. It's this formula of break down the economy, turn the races against one another, and then the people at the very bottom can get back on the rest that they think have wronged them by putting them in a uniform. And this is what's happening to blacks, whites, Arabs, Mexicans, Canadians, Irish, English, the French, the Germans, the Israelis, even some Palestinians that are accepting some dirty money. So there's a lot of stuff taking place on a global level in terms of like very deep, sick corruption. And corruption definitely, certainly flourishes when there's less money to go around. There's more robbery, there's more corruption. In the workplace, there's more racial discrimination. There's more tension. There's more competition. You know, when I drive through the streets of Portland, I don't need to drive and speed. I'm not in a rush to get anywhere, and I think a lot of people are out of work and they shouldn't be in a rush to get anywhere either. Just relax. Take a deep breath. Put on 88.9 or whatever. Listen to the classical station. Turn off NRK for a minute. Compete. No, relax. We're going way too fast. Things are way too heavy. There's a lot of negative things going on. We need more love in our communities. Where are you racing to get to? That also goes for some of these bikers that don't stop at red lights, that just blast right by you with this whole, you're a car driver, I spit on you. That's another way to divide us. You probably see more street fights between bikers and cars in the future. You think it's just about that? It's about the tensions in the world, the tensions in the air, the anger in the streets. That's why people are fighting. That's why there's more stabbings. That's why there's more murders. That's why there's more suicides. Like, look at the root cause of why we're all effed up here in the membrane, insane in the membrane. What is the root cause of all this anger and frustration? Why do you want to fight? Why do we love the UFC? Why do they love the WWE? Why do people love football? Why do people love the stupid bowl? Why does this speak to the primitive male soul so deeply? What is actually going on here? As Rome burns, the games just rise. Bread and circus, like my friend Alan told me, who runs the Sweet Level at the Rose Garden. A little skeptical of some of my claims about the economy breaking down. Hey, Alex, there's always going to be bread and circus. So I said to him, I'm like, man, you're upper management here. If anything happens, they're going to do something with this facility, the Rose Garden. Mark my words. Just shrugs it off like, it's not going to get that bad. There's always going to be bread and circus. Maybe to a certain degree there will be. Keep the people occupied. I guess some people say we've already been under martial law. They're already letting us know they're spying on us. And as a result, some of you won't email me or get involved or do anything because you're afraid that now you're going to be watched and something bad is going to happen to you. So my friend can believe what he wants, and that's fine. But you're going to see some changes in Portland, which is 60 miles out from the ocean, when these things transpire. We're also in the Constitution-free zone. Take a look at the ACLU report. All the way around the country, 100 miles in, no Constitution, no free speech, no rights. It's like something that people don't really know, this little thing that, but in the event of a disaster, you got Obama in the Council of Governors. 10 different districts. Again, we're in District 10, Oregon, Washington, and Idaho. We've got no choice but to come together as neighbors. And a lot of my neighbors are totally neurotic. They don't want to talk to me. In fact, I'm doing everything alone, and that's fine. And I started this show alone. No one supported me when I was about to launch the show. But despite all the stuff that I've said that's come to transpire, there are people that agree with me, but they're still in apathetic mode, or they don't want to get involved, or they're not getting enough sunlight. And some people are just scared and traumatized, I think, with mild levels of PTSD. And sometimes I think that adds to the whole paralysis that we're seeing here and some of us are experiencing here in Portland. I think I'm even paralysis mode a little bit. There's a lot more I like to do and get involved in and make a film. And I even have to, combat the things that are holding me back as a talk show host. I could be doing a lot more. But I think we ought to address some of those fears, those things holding us back from the reality that one day, neighbors will have to talk with one another. One day, single women that are out there will have to think a little bit more carefully about their safety and think about things of that nature. One day, a man in the very near future is going to have to think about keeping his family safe when there's less law enforcement on the street, and the few that are there are busy for the most part defending the infrastructure, being in riot gear, fighting off the starving peasants. But you also got the situation where they're all out there trying to give us tickets now. The economy is getting worse, and they're all trying to get us in every way that they can here in Portland. So when you call 911, when we're already in that situation, they can't get there in time because there's less officers. They went from 5 precincts to 3, and they're trying to get as much revenue as they can for the city, which, from what I understand, has enormous economic problems that we don't fully know about yet because they're not public with their budget either. We can't see the books. We don't know how much is being cooked. And I think there's also a lot of corruption going on down at City Hall. And so these are all things to think about. We are running out of time. Is that the correct time there, Bill? 37 minutes in. Let's go ahead and go to the next report. We talked about Children Prisoners of the U.S. War on Terror by Kenneth J. Thiessen. All right. Where to start with this one? Well, let's read. U.S. soldier, oh dear, waterboarded his own daughter, 4, because she couldn't recite the alphabet. A soldier waterboarded his 4-year-old daughter because she was unable to recite her alphabet. Joshua Tabor, he's actually a resident of the Northwest, he admitted to police he had used a CIA torture technique because he was so angry. As his daughter squirmed to get away, Tabor said he submerged her face 3 or 4 times until the water was lapping around her forehead and jawline. Tabor, 27, who had won custody of his daughter only 4 weeks earlier, admitted to choosing the punishment because the girl was terrified of water. Now, Tabor, a soldier at the Lewis McChord Base in Tacoma, Washington, that's literally right up the road here from the studio, a couple hours. He was arrested after being seen walking around his neighborhood wearing a Kevlar military helmet and threatening to break windows. Police discovered the alleged waterboarding when they went to his home in the Tacoma suburb of Yelm, and spoke to his girlfriend. Yelm's where Richard lives from survivalcenter.com, and I went up there to Washington. He's in McKenna, Washington, which is right outside of Yelm. And that was a big-time military town. I walked around there with my friend Gunnar, taking a look at what was going on. It's totally taken over. It was a small town, corporate everything. McDonald's, Burger King, Carl's Jr. It was disgusting. We were looking for so long to get something healthy to eat before we just broke down and took the unhealthy choice. But in our own backyard, there's a lot of men out there suffering from what they've seen or what they've done on the battlefield. I'm also talking to some of those men right now that are back in Portland that are trying to piece things together. And people that are suffering from nightmares, I've had people calling on my show,